welcome to June. We're absolutely thrilled to be here, and as you can see, the garden looks absolutely fabulous. In fact, it probably looks as good as it's ever looked in the last few years since we've had it. We've got foxgloves in absolute abundance, as you will know from your buckets this week, and we've got cornflowers. We do have a couple of ranunculus. We've been really busy this month. We've planted out the majority of our annuals. We had a great time last month with all the rain, and now with the heat we're just getting such good flowering, and we've got half of our dahlias planted out already, so we're feeling quite smug. So anyway, we're going to show you around the garden today, and then we're going to go into the studio and look at cutting and conditioning flowers.
Hi and welcome to another Year of Flowers, and today is a biodynamic no garden day, which means we can have Anna in the studio.
Thank you very much.
And because the sun is out in the most incredible way, we thought that what we would do this month, instead of focusing on kind of the techniques of arranging, we'd actually focus on the techniques of cutting and conditioning, with a view that in the weeks that you don't receive the flowers from us, you are confident to go into your own gardens and cut just a few stems to put in a jug on the table and have them last a really long time. So Anna, you cut all these flowers for us last night, and we're going to go through them and just talk about the different techniques for the different types of flowers. So the one thing that I think I particularly wanted to learn from you when we first started doing our buckets, and which I imagine most people with a nice English country garden, is to know how to treat roses.
Yes.
So that they don't just shatter their petals across the table as soon as they've been cut.
Well, I think most flower farmers go when they see anybody cutting flowers, because everybody just cuts flowers far too late. There is a sweet spot, because you also don't want to cut it when it's really, really tight. But I'd say this is a bit late to cut them, and it'd be okay for an event.
Yeah.
Right, searing is a very traditional technique. It's fail-safe. We literally let the water just come off the boil, and we'll sear the bottom, so that's about the bottom inch of a stem. Now, depending on how thick that stem is how long we'll keep it in the water for. And we're softening the cells so that water will be taken up the stem by capillary action, and that just helps get water right up here, and we don't get that. That's a natural bend, but we don't get that bend in the rose that we don't want. And then they would get wrapped and put deep into water, and then this is the ideal stage that I would cut them to go in your bucket.
So they are at the tight bud stage, but with the green outer leaves just starting to peel away.
Yeah.
As effectively.
Yeah, and you can definitely see colour.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that coming away that's really important.
It's like a peeling back, isn't it?
Yeah. So as you can see here, that's just I wouldn't guarantee that's going to open in the vase.
Nice.
Right, this lemon balm, it's really it's quite early in the season, so this is our test week this week to see whether or not it could cope with being conditioned. And this one looks okay, not so good. And the reason why this is happening is because there's so much fresh growth on it. It's grown so quickly with all the rain and the heat that you just can't maintain that water in the stem. So you're better off leaving that on the plant to toughen up a bit.
Okay, so here are some poppies.
Yep.
And
you've cut me a nice selection.
it's a great way. This is the perfect example we think, of demonstrating when is the right time to cut a flower, when does everyone want to cut a flower, and when should you actually cut a flower.
Yes, perfect, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think everybody wants to cut it at this stage, and it's you might as well just leave this one for the bees and let it produce seed, because now that the petals are open, it's going to be pollinated, and the first thing it's going to do when it's cut and put in your vase on your kitchen table is drop the leaves in a reaction to stress, because it's done what it needs to do. Whereas these ones need to bloom and be pollinated. So you can see here, that one there, just open, and it's nascent.
So it's just that outer cell, it's like outer protective layer, it's like cracked almost.
Yeah, you can see it. You can see a slit, and you can feel on this one, it's sort of soft. Whereas these ones are much. Where's that one? There was one that was quite hard, and you can just see it's got a bit of a delay. So with the poppies, I'd say cut them in bud, but with a tiny sliver, and then I would also, because they are so sappy, and you can see that isn't, as Cissy said, it's just their natural bent. But I would sear them for 10 seconds in boiled water, and you can see that's what we've done here, just to help them rehydrate.
So I think conditioning is it is as important as any other stage. It's as important as the growing, it's as important as the selecting, it's as important as the arranging, in terms of giving your flowers longevity. And I'd say I'm quite new to conditioning. I was trained in the traditional way with non-British flowers, and so the idea of cutting and conditioning a stem, it would have already made it to me by this point. It would have come, from Holland.
Or the florists say they don't last long because they don't know how to.
Yeah.
It's not trained.
Totally. No one is taught how to do this. And for me, it was a real learning curve last year when we started doing our buckets, because typically if I was cutting my flowers, they were for an event the next day or the day after. And so I didn't need to think about longevity. I didn't need to think about, what it was going to do and how it would evolve in the vase. It was just for that event, and then it didn't matter if it died. And, you've talked a little bit about the idea of that, the cells need to be, taught how to drink.
Yep.
And get really hydrated again. And I think that's so interesting. I think that's such an interesting thing to understand.
And once you've got that, I think your approach to cutting flowers and preparing them will be much better.
Definitely. So we liken it to a little spa treatment.
Yes.
But the idea that, these flowers come, they're a bit frazzled and a bit stressed and kind of like, what's has happened to me? And what you're trying to do is essentially reduce any additional external stressor on the flower, just to really allow that sort of flower or stem at the cellular level to just be able to focus on the rehydration process. So we wrap them so that they don't have to carry their own weight. We put them in the dark so that it doesn't, it's not this like,
but they're not trying to bloom.
Yeah.
Because the stress, if you for any flower, if it stresses, what it wants to do is create seed.
Yeah.
And that's why a flower will go over really quickly. So we want it to stop it trying to create seed and keep its fine lines.
Yeah. So we keep it in the dark, gets wrapped up, and then it gives it a really nice, deep, cool drink of water, and it is just left undisturbed. Don't move it.
No.
It's got to be quiet.
Next we will be playing relaxation well noises for our flowers, because I think this is actually really, really important, and the way we dance around trying to find coolness in this place is so
at this time of year as well, the amount of discussions that we have about, okay, when are we cutting, when are we conditioning, when are we sorting the buckets. I sorted the buckets at 4 a.m. last week because of the heat. But it's so important, and it does play so much impact on how long the flowers do last.
Yeah. Right, Cissy, you're up.
I am.
What have we got today?
So I thought today we're just going to do something really playful with bud vases, and not like the showy, prize-winning flowers, but actually just with the weeds. No.
Oh, meadow flowers.
But with all the meadow flowers, I don't know if you were noticing, I was literally taking, a clump of grasses. Oh, I've got some daisies here. But I don't want everything to be at the same height, so I was kind of almost in my hand, sort of looking at the various heights. So there's something down here, pull that down a little bit. you know, but something nice and up and dramatic. So everything's kind of got its own, almost its own space. And at that point then, I'm just going to snip across the bottom. And what's lovely about this sort of thing, when we cut them and put them in our buckets, is, you know, you'll have one stem with obviously a very showy flower, which we would never give you on its own, but really you're being, you know, the stem is being cut for these guys that are waiting in the wings that are going to open in the vase.
And then as that develops, as that drops off, you can just pinch that off, and that little head, that little spike will still stay there and look very pretty as the rest of them open up.
Yeah, I just want...
Well, that's a small section, yeah. Oh. What's going in this little baby though?
I haven't decided yet. I might put some campion in there. Or something little, because it is obviously such a small...
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we can't wait. And enjoy your flowers this month.
They are stonkers.